Okay. Here's something else to think about, and the concept is called imposter syndrome. Anyone heard that term before? Just raise your hand. Imposter syndrome. The idea was the term was coined back in the late 1970s by two clinical psychologists. And the idea is that as leaders, you and I, as leaders, every once in a while, we tend to doubt ourselves. We tend to question, am I really an effective leader? Am I really a good leader? Or maybe am I faking it? I'm impersonating a leader. I'm acting like a leader. I'm a fraud. I won't ask for a show of hands, but my guess is that each of you at some point have had that thought that maybe I'm not quite the leader that people think I am. And again, the term for that is called the imposter syndrome. Very common. As many as 70% of all CEOs at some point in their career have experienced the imposter syndrome. Again, where we feel like we're a fraud, a fake, feel like our success maybe is accidental, like nothing that we did, it just we got lucky. And of course, our greatest fear when we're experiencing the imposter syndrome is that we might be discovered, right? Someone may expose us that we're not quite the leader that we thought we are. Yeah. So I share this just so, one, you understand it's very common. If for whatever reason on any given day you feel like, hey, maybe I'm not quite the leader that people think I am. So number one, it's common, and certainly there are ways to address it. There are ways to address it, right? Just to, hey, recognize that maybe I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty good. I got this company, I've got employees, we're pretty successful. Most days I seem to know what I'm doing. It's just to reinforce the positive that you know that you're responsible for, and acknowledging that from time to time we do make mistakes as a leader. So I want to give you what I think is a very simple definition for leadership, kind of like with marketing. You know, there are thousands, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of books on leadership. Every book's got their own definition of leadership. This one comes from General Dwight D. Eisenhower, and he defined leadership very simply as the art of getting people to do what must be done. Think about that definition for a moment. The art of getting people to do what must be done. I like this definition, one, because it's simple, easy to remember. Two, it causes us to think, well, leadership starts off with figuring out what must be done. What are our goals, our objectives? What is our strategy? It starts off with determining what is it that must be done. It also suggests that leadership is not so much about exerting power, but this idea of getting people to want to do what must be done. They've got to want to do it. We can't force them to do it. It also, something else that I would point out in this definition is the second word, the art of getting people. There is some science to leadership. I'm sure there is, but I think it's just as much an art as a science. I think it's a little bit of both. And this definition reminds us of that there's more than one way of achieving results. As we talked about, variety of different leadership styles, so there's more than one way to get the results that we expect. Okay? So let's keep that definition in mind as we continue to talk about leadership. So I mentioned the imposter syndrome before. This comes from Albert Einstein, famous scientist. The exaggerated esteem in which my life work is held makes me feel ill at ease, he said. I feel compelled to think of myself as an involuntary swindler. Think of that, the great Albert Einstein, an involuntary swindler.